Hello and welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I am your host, Ryan Black, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Jacob Rush and Joshua Taylor, and we are back and we are playing with power. This is episode 251, and we are coming at you with some Metroid spoiler cast warning right here. Tune out if you do not want to hear these spoilers, because we are going to lay it on the line tonight. Guys, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Right.
I'm doing just fine.
Go ahead, Josh.
That's it. That's all I got. Go ahead, Jacob. I'm kidding. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm pretty good. I'm hanging in there. I've been fighting with my stupid hospital Wi-Fi that I've been having to use for Chromecast, and apparently Chromecast doesn't like hospital Wi-Fi too much, and everybody's suggesting you get like a little portable router to connect. I'm like, nuts to that. Like, no way. So I'm going to see if I can't plug in like a Cat 5 cable directly into the Chromecast and get it working that way. That's my last-ditch effort to get it to connect. I can get the controller to connect, no problem, for Stadia controller, but the Chromecast just wasn't accepting it. So that's what I was dealing with at the hospital today, outside of working. I'm glad to be off now. So same job situation?
Yeah, it still sucks, but no, I actually like working from home at least. Definitely not to the dream yet by any means whatsoever, but it could be worse. I've been in worse situations. So.
Yep, I'm sure. I mean, not to say anything bad about Burger King, but there's some things out there that you can use to get ahead. That's not
at least that one was easy. Yeah.
So, what is your what are your plans for Christmas?
My plans are about what they always are, which is pretty chaotic. Usually on Christmas Eve, which I think we're kind of doing the usual more or less this year. Last year was weird. We've got 3 stops on Christmas Eve, to make a long story short. And then, which goes super late. The last one has a ton of people. It's always like 100 degrees in there. Yeah, it's fun, but, and then the Christmas Day, we have another 3 stops. So
yeah,
we definitely stay busy. And then after that, you come back and we have 30 bags of gifts that we slowly, one by one, open up for the kid over time. It takes a little bit of time.
Part of me misses that whole going to different houses on Christmas, and the other part of me is just no, I just want to stay home and enjoy the whole
complicated.
Day. Yeah. We finally worked it out to where we do shifts each year, we trade off. This year we had Thanksmas with my in-laws on Thanksgiving, and then we're going to be having, oddly enough, Christmas with my parents on the 1st. So we've got Christmas all to ourselves here at home for our household, and so that's going to be pretty cool to finally do that and get to enjoy that with the new housemates and everybody, and just have a really good Christmas together. And I'm hoping it's just cozy and intimate, just in a way that I'm hoping it snows that day, so we're just all snuggled under blankets and just enjoying our fake Disney fireplace.
It's in the mood.
We ordered that off a Disney Movie Club because we like the fireplace stuff around this.
This one on Disney Plus too. My daughter, for whatever reason, likes to turn it on every once in a while. It's Frozen themed.
Mm-hmm. The one that you can actually get through the movie club is really, really cool if you can find it outside of the movie club. It's got a bunch of different movie callbacks, things that go on in the background. One point there's a shadow of Maleficent dragon that shows up and breathes into the fire, and the fire turns green. There's some cool effects and stuff. You'll see Kevin pop his head down occasionally, or see what's his name? Is it Carl?
Yeah, from up. Old man. Yep.
Yeah, rising up with the balloons and stuff, and he drops his cane walker thing. But yeah, it's a cool little device, a cool little CD, DVD. Wow, I just dated myself a little bit there.
VHS.
Oh yeah, there you go.
The thing with my family, actually, or with our families, is they're not always all going to be around. So I'm just sort of riding this. This won't be a thing forever. 6 stops in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those things you don't really want to complain too much about, because one day some of these grandparents and stuff probably aren't going to be here. Some of them are getting very high up there in age, not to be kind of down, but So, it's all good.
Anymore, like it's hard with my parents to have Christmas with them because they don't do a lot to accommodate for allergies and things, and we're pretty much like we can't do like dairy and all that stuff with allergies in the household. So it's really hard to do like Christmas dinner with them, and so like we're glad to have the time at home where we can make. We always have the tradition on Christmas Eve where we eat grilled cheese. We call them cheese nasties, and potato soup, and we watch the Muppets Christmas Carol. Basically, we just end off the night with that, and then go straight to sleep. We get up about midnight or so. We take turns and we fill stockings with each of the things we got for each other. Usually, like things from like Dollar Tree and Five Below runs, just silly little things. And then we go back to sleep and wake up in the morning. And the usual tradition is to grab our Christmas bags, our Christmas stockings, and I'll hop into whoever the master bedroom's bed is, and everybody just opens up stockings one person at a time, just going through all the stuff that they got. And oftentimes I'm ending up opening like Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something like that. So it's always a little magical for that and a little surprising. So good tradition. Do you have any big like traditions amidst all the chaos? Something you do maybe at home all to yourselves, or anything like any rituals?
Well, with Danielle's family, to start there, because it's kind of one of the oddest ones. I've been doing this with her since 2008, I think I went through that year. But anyhow, her dad's mother, that side of the family, there's like a ton of people that go to her house. And I don't know really how to describe this, but they do the school bus. So it's weird to see, but it's even weirder to describe. Is they basically pretend like they're on a school bus. Okay, and then like some of the family comes in dressed up like it's funny. It's supposed to be funny. Like they'll come in dressed up as goofy stuff. Like someone came in dressed up as Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation, and then some years it's not always the most kid friendly things. But it's funny. I don't know how to describe it without you seeing it, but you get stuff like that. And then like my grandmother, we go over to their house and we do like the white elephant thing, which. I know that's like a everybody does kind of thing, but I enjoy shopping for that usually. This year, I couldn't come up with something that funny. I ended up going to Five Below and got a big metal sign, which Five Below is new here, by the way, and I do enjoy it. But it says Nugs, not drugs, and it's got chicken nuggets on it, and I got a rubber chicken with it.
I love it.
So
love it. I've got the Five Below shirt. That's the ramen noodles. It's Sen Nudes. I love ramen. Yeah, it's a good time. You can find some interesting shirts there.
I got a Spider-Man on there yesterday.
So Jacob, you're back a little bit. I just wanted to bring you up to speed. We're kind of talking about our Christmas traditions, like where we're going for the holidays, and if we have anything that we just kind of do regularly each year.
Christmas traditions?
Yeah, and just like what your plans are this Christmas. Like if you're going to a bunch of places, or are you just going to stay home? Like what's going on with that?
Well, my Christmas traditions, honestly, have kind of just changed so much over the recent years. But, this year, I always try to make sure I'm at my church's Christmas Eve service. So I'll be doing that. And then, it's just different. I just had Christmas yesterday with my side of the family. And that's the first time we've ever done Christmas like that. Usually we've all got up, done our thing, and then met up for Christmas on Christmas Day. And the family just keeps getting bigger and changing. So it's been different and difficult, and to get everyone together on that day. So we changed it and got together early. So, but then this year as well, Lindsay and I will do that with us, and then we're just gonna go to her parents later that day.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm taking care of 3 kids right now, so bear with me.
So that's kind of the rundown of our Christmas traditions, and a little bit of nostalgia there. Just kind of what we do around the holidays. Looking forward to seeing what kind of video games that we can pick up. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get into what we are radical Rexing about. All right, Josh. So just let us know what you've been doing lately. So it's been a while since you've been able to be on the show, and I'm kind of curious what you've been playing.
Well, been playing. So, I might have revealed this on here before, and I know no one from my work listens to this. I pray they don't. I might get a lot of game time in because it's kind of easy to play on the side while I am working. I do my job just fine though. Anyhow, I have been playing particularly a lot of them. Or wow, that made no sense. I've been playing a lot of Paper Mario 64 on the N64 expansion pack, whatever they call it, the thing. And I started to realize I kind of need to get through this thing because I have an idea of some games I might be getting for Christmas myself. So I've been kind of blasting through it, but it's good. I've played through it before. It's still really solid. It's one of those, if you do have that expansion pack, if you choose to get it, I would definitely recommend taking the time out to go through it. It takes a little bit, but I think it still really holds up today. Along with that, I've kind of just hopped around on different things. I got a lot of stuff on sale, like around Black Friday or after that. I think for like $30, I got Sonic Colors for the Xbox version. What else was it? The Nickelodeon or Nicktoons, whatever, the fighting game, the one that's like Smash Brothers, which is surprising. I have fun with it. I know not everybody says it's great. I still think it's fun. And there was one other thing, and I'm drawing a blank on that one. But yeah, can't remember. Anyhow, so I managed to pick up a lot. Just been kind of picking at whatever I come across. I actually need to bring this up. Is something else I've definitely been radical rexing about. It's not so much a game, but the recent release of Spider-Man No Way Home. So don't worry, I will not spoil a thing. But we did see it yesterday with a group of like 9 of us, including my child and one of the other family's kids. But I think it was awesome. And I've always kept up with the MCU and particularly Spider-Man movies anyhow. So it was super cool. So I've been trying to, I wish there was a good Spider-Man or good Marvel game really like on the Switch, but there's kind of not outside of like Lego games.
Yeah, you've got the, what was it? Was it Alliance?
Yeah, one of my friends bought it a while back, and we played through it a little bit, and it was okay, but it's kind of like I forgot it existed, and it's never on a very good sale. Yeah. Like I'll see it go on sale, but it's like $41, and it's a few years old now. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that. Anything else you've been radical action about?
I think that's about it for now. I'll let you go.
Cool. Speaking of Paper Mario, looky what I've got right here.
That's a great one too.
I've got a copy of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. I have never played it. Shout out to Cody Christian, a big fan of the show. Also a really awesome dude.
Yeah.
Mods Game Boy cameras and is really into photography and helping his wife do their photography stuff. And so it's really, really cool to see all the custom builds and video game stuff that he does. And he said he found an extra copy that he was going to have me borrow until I beat it, even if that is never. Don't worry, I'll beat it, and I'll be thoroughly enjoying this game. I'm going to pop it into my Wii. I told him that I'd probably pay him $30 insurance policy because my Wii may not spit the disc back out because it's having disk drive issues, but I'm going to give my best attempt to play it and enjoy it for the first time. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Cody is quite good at Mario Party, by the way, if I may jump in real quick. We played a few rounds of Mario Party Superstars, and he is quite good at it. He didn't win, but he darn tried. He got second. So it was me.
And that was you?
Yeah, it was me and my wife.
You,
Danielle. Cody and Michelle.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was really cool that you guys were able to do that. I totally would have been on it, but I couldn't.
It was great. I think it was Michelle's idea, actually, and I'd love to do that again.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm glad you got to do that with them. It's really cool to get together with the fans and play. Definitely cool. So another thing I'm radical rexing about, the needle has started to move again. It's been on empty for quite a while. But yesterday I decided to power through watching Marvel Avengers Infinity War. So I have now seen Infinity War. I've seen the whole big snap scene and everything. I'm finally caught up after all of this time. I'm going to start watching the movies through again and hoping to get through Endgame here after I watch Ant-Man and Wasp, and Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Yep.
Captain Marvel? Okay, yeah. Once I see that, then I'll be on to Endgame, and then I can finally see some other things after that and watch some of these shows everybody's been raving about. You know, I'm so far behind on the shows too. Like I think I stopped Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just because I was worried I was getting into spoiler territory for everything. So I just kind of took a step back from that. I watched as much as I could, but I'm ready to get back into it again. I'm starting to watch movies. I got the reason that this is made possible is I have a Chromecast up in my workspace here, and I could play things on my computer, but I never really wanted to because, you know, I still haven't really worked it out, but the Chromecast is working pretty well for me to watch on my bigger screen and enjoy that. So that's something that I can look forward to, finally getting caught up. I'm hoping to get caught up, probably not before the end of the year, but I plan on getting at least through Endgame in the near few months. But aside from that, I've not been playing a whole lot video card game and enjoying that, and so that's just go through phases in life. But I've been having a lot of fun with physical card games and digital card games, and looking forward to my birthday coming up in January. Probably going to be a Sentinels of the Multiverse theme. Looking forward to figuring out what that's all going to be like. But hoping to play a couple games of Sentinels of the Multiverse. Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition is supposed to be shipping out sometime. They said it wasn't going to be out before the end of the year. It would be really cool if it showed up on my birthday. I'm not actually off on my birthday, but I am able to get off the next 2 days after my birthday, and then I have my normal Thursday, Friday off, and so I'd have a nice 4-day time off, and hopefully I'll get Sentinels in that time and get to play it. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been Radical Rexing about. Jacob, what about you? What are you Radical Rexing about?
Well, again, so I'm back. Sorry for my disappearance. 3 little kids can cause some issues at times, but I think we're good now. I have been Radical Rexing about Hollow Knight. I've owned the game for a while. I bought it on like a deal way back when, and that's all I'm playing. I mean, I really want to beat it, so it's not like I'm rushing through it. I'm just trying to devote a lot more time to it than I traditionally have been devoting times to games. Because I know Christmas is coming, and I know I want to get games, and I just don't want trying to beat some games, to not add to the backlog. So I've been putting in some overtime, but man, the game is really long. It just keeps going on, and it's really hard. That's the frustrating part about it, is that it's kind of like the Celeste of Metroidvanias, if you ask me. Which I don't know if that sounds appealing to Josh or not, but I mean, it's definitely harder than Metroid Dread. What I find most frustrating is that, like, I'll get to a new area or a new boss, and you'll have all your awesome upgrades, but it's just like you just kind of get rocked. Unlike Metroid Dread, which we're going to talk about here very shortly, it's not as easy to overcome patterns. Sometimes I just feel like they just overwhelm you with so really insane obstacles, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this or if I want to. I just kind of want to beat it now, But I really am enjoying it. The first time I played it, I was like sporadic little tidbits here and there, and then I was like, let's start over. So I did, and I got back to where I was the first time I played it within like an hour or so. So I clearly didn't get that far, but now I have a lot of upgrades. I've unlocked so many areas. I don't know how I feel about the formula of an open world Metroidvania. I mean, it's not open world, but you know what I mean. Like, you can go to any area you want. There's nothing that stops you from moving forward.
Yeah.
Unlike Metroid. And this is it's different. And maybe I would like to see Metroid go that route, but at the same time, it's been difficult because I feel like I don't know if it's just my skill level or if I suck, or if I really just it'd be wiser to come back when I've done my upgrades. That's kind of the mindset on it. But I really am enjoying the game. I would like to beat it, and I would like to beat Eastward, and I would like to beat Kaze, or that's how you say it.
You get it.
Before the end of the year. So those are my goals. Because if I get what I asked for Christmas, I'll get a couple games, and I eShop money, so I'll buy something that way too. But yeah, that's me.
Cool. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our Radical Rexing segment. Let's get into the nitty gritty of Metroid Dread. Looks like Chris called in. He's not able to make it tonight, possibly because he hasn't played the game yet. Shame on you, Chris.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Shame.
You call yourself a Nintendo fan?
You just
All
keep
those
playing
weird
old
DS games.
Hey guys, it's Chris. Sorry I couldn't be with you guys tonight. I'm still playing Metroid Dread, so I still don't want anything spoiled for me. But I am having a huge blast with the game. I love it so much. We've waited so long for a 2D Metroid, and we never thought that it would actually come, but here it is. It was one of the coolest E3 surprises I've ever experienced, and I'm just so happy that there's a special edition version of the game that came with an amazing art book. But so far, the game is everything that I hoped it would be, and so much more. The controls are so fluid, and it feels so precise that it almost feels like it could rival a Mario game in how good the controls feel. The graphics are excellent. They're not mind-blowing, but they're exactly what I would want. I think the character designs are really interesting. The music is fine. I wish it was a little bit catchier, but it's good. But the sound design is just so satisfying. When that sound that it makes when you get a new upgrade, it's that alien growling sound. I love that so much. It's very challenging, and I'm having a little difficulty with it, but it's pretty cool in that way. But above all else, I've just been so impressed by the level design. There honestly should be a college course based on how incredible and meticulous the level design is. It's just the way that it discreetly leads you to where you need to go, but it makes you feel like you made that decision yourself is just amazing. I've never had a game that made me feel like it was my decision to go on the right path in such an open-ended world. But anyway, I'm having a great time with this game. I look forward to beating it soon, and I hope you guys have a great show. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Cool. Thank you so much, Chris, for calling in. Get to it. You beat this game, man. We got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Seriously. I know you're going to miss out on this conversation, but we'll definitely talk about it in an Oscar once you finally have done it. But actually, I don't know if Jesse's beaten it yet or not, but we might have to hold back a little bit there. But
He hasn't, but
okay, we'll get
we need
there.
to make a rule where you have a month to play a game after it comes out, at least a big game like that. I mean, it's just not fair, that we can't talk about it. I think we should make a
special
rule
group every time.
moving
You
forward.
beat Metroid Dread, you get added to this group.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I'm glad he is enjoying for what he has played.
All right, guys, where are we going to start here? Jacob, you're going to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Man, Metroid Dread, this game is my game of the year. It was the game that I was so excited for at E3. I loved the reveal. I was hyped. I was ready I pre-ordered the deluxe edition. And this has been something that I've personally been asking for years beyond end. And I have said I wanted to, I've been waiting a long time for this. Because my personal favorite game was, Metroid Fusion of the 2D in the 2D market, and man, it's fantastic. The game I think the part that really, I mean, the intro was great, but then that little quick flash when it goes Metroid 5, like someone types it out on like a typewriter, Metroid 5. Oh, that got me and gave me goosebumps because that's the same thing you see in like Super Metroid and Samus Returns, things like that in Fusion. It said Metroid 5, and this is what we had finally been waiting for. 19 years. 19 years we had been waiting for Metroid 5 to further the story. Not only did it further the story, it ended the story arc of the Metroids, which is something we'll talk about here, I'm sure. But I was thrilled to see this game was real and that it was finally happening. Josh, how about you, man? What were your, like, from the moment it got announced, what were you thinking? You were there with us. You were here in Indiana. You made the trip out here.
I was. It was one of those rare times I made it up there. No, I can't say I really expected it. I don't know if anybody else did. Like you said, it's been like 19 years since Fusion came out. So I honestly just had no clue that we would actually get a sequel to that ever, even though it felt like there should have been one a long time ago. But it also kind of didn't surprise me all at the same time when I thought about it because of Samus Returns coming out a few years ago on the 3DS. And I can see they kind of took a lot of parts from that and just made something brand new from it. They realized that worked and they were able to slap it on the Switch this time. So it looks even more amazing and it feels, Chris mentioned too, I guess we'll get more into that later, but it does feel really awesome to play. Yeah, I definitely was surprised. I was kind of maybe with some others where, if anything, Metroid, I was kind of maybe, I don't know, like a 20% chance expecting Metroid Prime 4, some mention at least, or a teaser or something, which we still really didn't get, but that's all right. This is a nice way to hold us over, so to speak. I think some people even would prefer this. I think it's great.
Ryan, you are Metroid's been your baby, all these years from your nostalgia childhood. Man, how did you feel when you first saw this?
I was pretty excited. It moved the needle a little bit more than the announcement of Ridley for Smash did for me. Which is great. I got really excited to see that, and I was really, really happy to see that we're finally getting a continuation of the story. I think I was most happy for you, Jacob, because how much time have you been demanding that they continue the story? And like they left off with that cliffhanger, like what's going to happen?
Yeah,
and they didn't really resolve the cliffhanger, like the whole like Galactic Federation thing, but they did resolve the Metroid series, run of things, and so like that's really, really. I'm glad that they did that. I think that this game kind of hit at a good time as well, being that like I was trying to keep away from any kind of Metroidvania just to save myself from Metroid. And so I played through it, thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a few things that I liked and didn't like about it, but ultimately like it's a solid game. And I still don't know where I want to place it on my ranking of Metroid games. I'm still on the fence about that. I still keep my Metroid games pretty like separate as far as 3D and 2D on rating scales. But I really don't know where to place any of the Metroids. I like them all so much. Like I don't want to rank them. Super Metroid may be my favorite, but it depends. Like I enjoy all of them for different reasons. And even the more complex the puzzles and the more like using new mechanics to do those puzzles, the more that I like it, and just the exploring and things like that. It's definitely really, really good, and it's become more accessible over the years. Being able to 100% something is a lot easier now.
Right.
So I'm just really thankful that we got this, and we got to see this, and I'll be excited for Metroid Prime 4, but I don't think that I'll be as excited as I was, as for a new 2D Metroid, the continuation of the story and everything. I can't wait to see what they do next with that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I've got high hopes for Metroid Prime 4 with like insane graphics on the newest Nintendo Switch iteration with 4K and like, epic multiplayer that
4K.
rivals Halo, and just something like that. Like I really want all of that, and like a really awesome story and music, and just I want everything for this series, and I want it to be Nintendo's amazing game. And I think I'm hyping up a bit too much, and it's not going to meet my expectations. But at the same time, like I did that for Zelda, for Breath of the Wild, and it did not disappoint me on my wildest dreams. And so that's like what I'm expecting for this. And perhaps I'm hyping up too much and be destined to let myself down. But I think it's in good hands right now with Retro. So, but let's just talk a little bit more, about the team that put this game together. Coming fresh off the heels of Samus Returns and giving us this awesome masterpiece. Where the environments just breathe in the background and move and hint at things that are going to happen. The storytelling that they do without actually saying anything is just on point. And they've done such a good job. And they have like little like light moths that fly around in the background to help kind of guide you where you want to go and things like that. There's some really, really cool mechanics that help tell you which way and how to go about like traversing, even though you're going all over the map, visiting like 5 different areas in a short like few minute span. Just a little bit, and you're like unlocking new places to explore, and opportunities to discover items to get further, and the amount of sequence breaking you can do to do things early, and they program that in there. Like it's just like they touched every single point, like for speedrunners and Easter eggs. And for those people who just want to like take in every little bit, I think the only thing that I would fault this game for is it didn't have as much of a memorable soundtrack for me. These songs don't get stuck in my head. And I played Metroid Dread with headphones on, and it just nothing really like I came away with anything stuck in my head or wanting to like listen to that and things like that. So
one time you could have played a game with your sound off, and it would have been okay. And you chose to do it with headphones.
No, but that's the thing. Like, whereas Breath of the Wild didn't have a robust soundtrack that was memorable in a lot of ways. Like, there's a couple of notes here or there that were familiar. Like, it's like it had a lot of charming sounds and stuff. And this game was all about the sounds, the background noises, the things that would happen. Like Chris mentioned, where you have like the alien sounds whenever you collected an item, and the chirping and clicking of the Emmys, which is actually a soundtrack or is a sound file that was actually ripped from Metroid 2, which was pretty cool.
Was it really?
Yeah,
really?
there's some if you go and you listen, I think there was like some robots on SR388 that made kind of a certain sound, and they resampled that and used it in the sounds for the Emmys. It was a really cool callback that they did there.
The Game Boy game, right?
Yeah, the Game Boy game.
I mean, now that you think about it, there's an area where like, and because I've beaten the Game Boy version twice, and there's an area where like the music just goes away, and all you hear are like beeps and like that, like, very similar, like dun, 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 dun. Stuff like that. I didn't realize that they pulled it from that game though. That's really fascinating. That's cool. Wow, that's really cool.
So they poured a lot of love into the sounds and sound design. Even if the tracks aren't that memorable, they're more atmospheric. And it's not like a Super Metroid where the song gets stuck in your head and it's got that beat to it and that drive. It's a very, very different feel to it. But I think it still worked well. And it didn't interrupt or distract at all. In any of the playthroughs that I've done so far. So, yeah, I think they've done an outstanding job with this game. And I can't wait to see, what Mercury Steam does next. With, I think I heard they were doing some kind of RPG or something like that. Like action RPG, but that's cool. I
suppose Nintendo would just outright buy them. I think they're fantastic, and they should before someone like Microsoft
buys them up, yeah.
And Microsoft tries to do that, but let's talk about the story, guys.
Gonna get into spoilers.
Full on spoilers here. I mean, Nintendo. Everyone thought Nintendo was spoiling the game too much before they came out. Honestly, not really. I mean, they showed us the first, and pretty much the intro of the game. I mean, there's so much that happens in this game that you don't know, and I will say maybe the only thing that they should have held back on was showing off Kraid. Kraid returned in this game.
I take
mean,
issue with that even because like
it didn't,
you know,
it didn't bother me personally too much. It hyped me.
I mentioned that Kraid was in Nintendo Land, and no one batted an eye. But Nintendo mentions that Kraid's in Metroid Dread, and everybody loses their minds.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I was really excited to see that in the trailer. That hyped me up for the game even more. It would have been really cool to discover that on your own, for sure. I'll give you a great example. When I played Metroid Other M, I had no idea that the Queen Metroid would be in the game, and that was the first time that you ever saw the Queen in 3D. And she was on that ship. Spoilers for a game that's that's 11 years old now, and that we've covered on this show. But that blew me away, and that was an awesome callback, and I didn't know that going into the game. So I can understand that feeling of if we would have saw Kraid like that, not knowing he was there, but at the same time, I don't care too much. I thought it was pretty cool to see it ahead of time, and just got me really stoked. I would like for them to make sense of how the heck Kraid got there. Make some sense of that. How did he get there from the first game, or and Super?
Well, it looks like they captured him. I mean, they did show that one clip in prison and subdue Kraid.
Sure, but when did they do that? Because you beat the crap out of him on Super, and you blew the planet up. So were they there capturing him while you were killing Mother Brain?
I'm still not convinced
Spoilers.
that Kraid is just one being. I think it's multiple. Kraid is the species because you've got the baby Kraid and Super Metroid before you fight the actual Kraid. So I'm thinking it could be another Kraid, just another one that grew up on another planet. Yeah, that's very well true. But they didn't really divulge that, and it made it seem like Samus knew how to deal with the creature, whether it was sentient or not. I don't know how much intelligence they have, or Ridley's supposed to be able to talk and stuff like that. I don't know where Kraid is on the intelligence level. Maybe lizard brain, but
that's true. It's true. Probably pretty stupid.
But he
was considered a commander.
I do think that it was a smart move to bring in Kraid. It was the one plot spoiler that didn't have too much bearing. It was towards the beginning of the game, and it really got fans to want to jump in and see what it was all about.
Yeah.
I think it was a hook that needed to happen, even though it kind of sucked that it didn't have that magic of having diehard fans discover it. I think putting an iconic character straight up in front of everybody to get Metroid fans talking about it, and then getting other people interested in it, and kind of generating that hype to play the old games to see who this Kraid is. I think it was a really good idea to get this swell of fans and newcomers alike to play this game and get it to sell as well as it has so far. I'd love to see the sales numbers now, especially or at least at the end of the year, and see how its launch year went. I've got high hopes for it for sure.
I think the weird thing with Kraid in particular, with them showing him off, I think it did kind of put me in a false expectation to see Ridley or another big callback, which we kind of, unless I'm forgetting something, we kind of didn't really get. Ridley wasn't here at all.
Mm-hmm. No. Finally, praise the Lord.
and I get it gets a little ridiculous with him always returning. I just, with this being the so-called final chapter of this story, and him already being in one, two, in the remake of 2, 3, and in 4, in Fusion sort of. He didn't show up at all in 5, so that caught.
Nope, not even in a memory.
That caught me a little weird, but. Yeah, I'm torn. I think I just expected a little something else like that, or Mother Brain or something in some form.
We got Mother Brain. Didn't you see the Aurora units?
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I actually it's not the end of the world, but yeah.
I was predicting when I saw those. I thought for sure that the ending would Mother Brain would be there. That's what I thought would happen at the end, but. They didn't do that.
I like that there's some hints that they're like, oh, what if Chozo created? I don't remember the story, but Chozo created the Mother Brain infrastructure, and then the Galactic Federation worked off of that technology. By Ravenbeak, and created Mother Brain to do all this stuff. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories out there, and you can argue for or against it.
Yeah.
But I just like to see that these common elements appeared there. You know, you've got the Rinkas that are shot out at you when you're fighting the brain enemies. You know, it's kind of cool that they have an AI that interfaces with the enemies to hack their brains and use them against Samus. It's kind of cool. And it's crazy that the Chozo had that technology. But I think Silent Robe probably is the one behind that one because I'm pretty sure that the warrior race Chozo aren't that smart. But
speaking of Wyatt Robe,
Silent Robe.
Talk about that.
I don't know. Silent.
Whatever.
I don't know. I don't even know.
Just call it
Josh,
Robe. I don't remember now. I think it's Silent Robe. Now you've got me questioning it. We should know this.
Well, it's been a few weeks.
It has.
I'm assuming that this was. What was the gender of this show? Is that really clear?
I'm pretty sure it was I thought it was a dude. I thought they all were dudes, both of them.
Kind of what I was.
Yeah, I kind of got the concept. I thought maybe it could have been a guy, but I didn't know for sure. I don't remember if I've seen any artwork for a female Chozo before.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was a guy.
Okay.
But you know, in the trailer they showed him, and I kind of thought that he was a villain then. Yeah. But you know, you get there and he actually stops the Emmys and from attacking you, and then all of a sudden he's a good guy, and he explains the story and the background to it. And I thought this part was this is where the game really, I think, picked up for me story wise. It really got intriguing. Like, oh, okay, this is really neat. The cinematic cutscenes I thought were really cool in this game. You know, they weren't overdone, weren't over the top, but they were neat. And then we have to talk about what Samus did. Did you guys get goosebumps too when after she's done hearing Quiet Robe talk the whole time, and then all of a sudden she talked, she spoke, and she spoke in Chozo, you know, and that was really cool. That was fascinating, and it just kind of catches you off. It's like if Link all of a sudden actually spoke verbally.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Zelda, I will. You know,
we've heard Samus talk before, so
it's just so
right.
It's so rare, and I felt like it was well done. Like it wasn't. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of Other M because of how it was handled, and I feel like here it felt like it was something special, the way they handled it.
Yeah, they did it right. She didn't overtalk, and she talked in a Chozo language, which she's a part Chozo. Right. They did it very, very well this time around. You're
tasteful.
Right. Very tasteful, yeah.
I think if anything, we can probably say that Samus is genetically confused at this point with all the different DNA running
just a little bit.
Yeah, just for sure. But that, you know what Quiet Robe talks about in this part, I mean, it just really, it helps connect all the games in the past, and that was really cool. I felt like the first half of the game really made you it gave you the Super Metroid vibes. It gave you the original Metroid vibes and Zero Mission, and even Metroid Samus Returns, you know. I felt like it kind of covered those beats. And then after that, the best part of the game, in my opinion, you got to the elephant in the room that just changed the whole game.
Yeah.
And that to me, I thought was, this is awesome. Holy cow. Like, the game just completely changed in difficulty. It was already tough, and you're starting to get the hang of it, and everyone's becoming easy, and then the difficulty just took a huge boost. And the fact that it's from my personal favorite game of Metroid is what made Metroid Dread move into the number 1 slot. You want to tell what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to describe a little bit more about this moment.
Sure.
I went into it, entering this area, this lockdown area, and it opens up for Samus, and she's able to walk in, and then closes behind her. I'm like, oh, what is she getting locked in here for? And then you start seeing like bodies kind of falling apart, and you're like, oh, is this Metroid? And they do this little fake out, that they come across one of the one of the enemies, and like the armor just kind of crumbles, and you're like, oh, is this a Metroid issue? And then like you start taking out enemies, and you start noticing like, oh wait, no, these are actually X.
Yeah.
And they did a tease at the beginning that brought Samus to the planet, was that they had an X there on the planet, a live specimen. But this was like, oh, cool, where this is how the X were contained, in this chamber and playing through that area. And then once you get back to where you started, I didn't pick up on this at first. I thought I was in a different area. I didn't realize it was in the same area where I came in here, into that area to, where they were in lockdown. Basically, the lockdown gates just were flown straight open, and all of the X were just streaming out, and to infect the planet overall. And it was just a really cool moment. Like, is this really happening? Once I realized what was going on, like, I guess we're doing this. This is like, there's no going back from here. Like, now we're in it now. I was like, I remember like pausing and like texting Jacob really, really quickly. I'm like, dude, this is going to be your absolute favorite Metroid game ever. When I saw that scene.
Well, that cutscene was so, I almost went to come up like, it was so pretty too.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so weird to say because
haunting in a way too.
The X parasite is deadly and really terrifying, but the colors and them just floating around, like,
they're free.
They don't look dangerous.
Yeah.
At all. They don't look dangerous, and they just showed a bunch of them and her looking at them. One thing, maybe this was a fault on their end, but these X parasite, I'm pretty sure they don't know who Samus is.
No.
And I don't think they tried to attack her initially.
Yeah, this was pre. They probably wanted to like try to simulate her, but this was pre them knowing anything about her, because these are different X from the ones that she met on SR388 later. So completely unrelated, and they don't know that Samus is a threat, or that Samus is a Metroid for that matter. So
right, yeah.
Samus has this Metroid DNA in her and is able to like absorb the X. Like, they don't know that there's a predator mechanic there. And I don't recall, like in Metroid Fusion, the X would flee from you after a while. Like, they'd run away from her. Some of them, and I don't recall them doing that too much in Dread. Seems most of the time they're attracted to her, but I think it's just kind of interesting. My one question is, does she take on any of the DNA of what she eats? Because that would make things even more confusing for her body. But
you are what you eat.
It's probably just food.
You are what you eat.
They do copy the genetic coding, but I don't know. It's really kind of a cool mechanic that she's able to absorb it because she has Metroid DNA in her. So, but just seeing them like floating out free, and it was like you said, you wouldn't, if you didn't know that they were like these super deadly like plague-like creature. Like, it would be just like, they're free, yay, they've been in captivity and now they're free to roam, but it gave an element and made every single enemy on the planet harder because they had extra steps, extra transformations. Like anything was up for grabs, and we later discovered
like a mutation.
We later discovered that they could take over bodies, that were dead and reanimate them. And so like that was a cool mechanic. They even did that with Quiet Robe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Brings confusion. I mean, they showed that scene too. It goes into it, and then all of a sudden he reawakens because Quiet Robe got killed after your talk by a Chozo robot, and then the X get released and they take over his body, and he wakes up, and then he reactivates all the Emmy. Yeah, which maybe I'm thinking, crap, great. Now this guy is back from the dead, but evil. I don't know. The X taking over everything, I felt a little bad. I felt bad that I released them out into the world, and I basically caused genocide to every living creature on that planet.
Well, you didn't really do it. That was all under the. That was all under the control of.
Yeah, you're right.
Basically,
Ravenbeak.
Ravenbeak let her in, and then shut her in there, and then just opened the gates wide when she started to exit. Like, he didn't even care. Like, he kept him contained, But I don't know why he even played. It was
all
card,
a test.
But
it was all a test. I don't think he knew if she would die to them or not. He That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to test her body, and because he knew that the DNA of Metroid was in her, I think he was just testing her to see. To him, it was just a big test result. What happens if I let her near X parasite?
A controlled
What
situation,
happens?
yeah.
Yeah, so, and then when he saw, like, well, basically she's immune to the one thing that we're all scared of, okay. Then released it all out.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a really, really bold move, because that's a threat to the survival, of, so, like...
Of himself, yeah.
So, like, why? But, he's up in his space, or his, like, I don't know, his palace or whatever.
You didn't, at the time, you didn't know. He was really high in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think he was very arrogant, though. Mm-hmm. Before we talk about Ravenbeak, though, I think we should, guys, like, is there like a specific boss that you guys thought was really cool and, a boss fight? What's your favorite boss fight of the game? Was it Kraid? Was it someone else? Josh?
Yeah, I'm actually looking up the name of it right now. Kraid was definitely cool. I mean, there's the nostalgic side of that. The fight was fun. It was fun to go back. I played through it 3 times. Played through it on normal, on hard, and then I went back on normal and beat it in under 4. Well, yeah, this is spoiler territory, but I beat it in under 4 hours and got another, like, all the ending rewards for the normal side. Tried it on hard, and I realized I was not going to make it in 4 hours, and sadly quit. But anyhow, it's one of the ones near the end, I believe, that was really cool. He, like, comes out of that big volcano-looking thing. I wish I could find the name of it here. But
the experiment.
Yeah, I thought that one in particular was really cool. There's another one underwater. It'd be hard for me to really pick a solid favorite. But yeah, I think the one, man, I can't think of his name. I think that the experiment one was probably my favorite. It was difficult, and it took me, I don't know, several tries to get through. It was one of those, like a lot of these bosses, at first, I feel like it's like, man, it just feels like there's no way I'm going to get through this. Like, you barely do any damage, and you end up dying in like 5 seconds. But then it's like, once you figure it out, once you get that trick down, that all of them seem to have, that don't feel like too gimmicky or too gamey, I guess. It's not so bad. It's very fair.
Yeah, you're talking about experiment number Z57.
Okay.
That's the name. Which was, as you're going around the game, that boss is dead before you release the X. You see it like being experimented on in a room, and it kind of scares you at first because you pop out and there it is, and you're like, whoa, like, you don't know if it's dead. You don't realize it's dead right away.
Yeah, it's just the electric impulses that are causing the muscles to contract. It's not actually alive, so...
But I didn't expect that. I thought that was really cool that the X brought it back to life. In a way, it's kind of like your Ridley. You ran into Ridley and Fusion. Ridley was dead. His body from Other M was frozen, and the Metroid absorbed the DNA from that copy of Metroid, and that's how you fought it. Same thing. And that was my favorite fight too. I thought it was unique and cool, and he was really tough, really challenging. But you can like shine spark him, and you can kill him immediately.
Yeah.
I watched a video of that.
I tried so hard. I couldn't
either. Could not do it.
Ryan, is there a particular boss?
I was able to finish that boss off with a shine spark, but I don't think it was like
nice.
I don't think it was like any kind of like special ending or anything. I think I did a lot of damage to it, and then I finally got one of the shine sparks off. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like I like the bosses that have different cutscenes depending on how you sequence break.
Yeah.
Kraid being one of those. Just
to do that one.
There is so much that you can do, like different like cutscenes you could trigger with Kraid. Whereas if you had got the morph ball early, you could kind of, or it had to be the bombs, I guess. Is that right? You had to use the
Yeah,
bombs.
it was the bombs, and you got to have a little bit of
Okay.
health when you do it too, because you like launch into his belly
Into his
button
stomach, yeah.
thing, and you're like taking damage as you're bombing him.
I found out there was another sequence break in the same fight. If you get the grapple beam early, you can actually use the grapple beam to climb up top to reach his mouth again. And you can like jump into his mouth and like hold his mouth open and like shoot several shots into his mouth like that.
That's crazy.
It's crazy
did not know that.
they programmed that in there.
That is cool.
That is crazy. And that Kraid fight, I love when he comes out and he like tries to, he screams at her and she just blasts him in the face. Like, shut up. Oh, I love her attitude. She just has this fearless
She
attitude.
just don't give a crap.
Like, right, she's like, great, yeah, I've already beaten you once. Let's go. Twice. I've beaten you twice.
And I liked
And your baby, too.
I think just not to completely write off the frustrating end boss, but or I guess, you know, with Ravenbeak, like that fight was really, really cool, and just the cinematics in that were just so awesome. You felt so cool and powerful. Like I think the thing that was the most like wow moment for me was when he you blow off one of his wings and he drops down and he just rips off the other one. You hear that crunch and you're like, this is so like wow, this is it's so intense.
Heck?
Like that was so cool. You know, he's
Can we
like
talk about
throwing the gloves
before the fight though? Like just how she like finally realizes she's like, he basically says, first off, we've been seeing a lot of jokes about it online now, but like Ravenbeak is the computer that's guiding you, and you don't know it.
You think it's
the
Adam the
computer.
whole
You
time.
think it's you think it's your ship, and
Is it him the whole time? I could not
Yeah.
determine
It's
that
him
for
the entire
sure. Like I
time.
knew it was at the
Yes.
end, but I was like, what?
Yeah, as soon as she was dropped off, basically as soon as she was, you know, cut off communication, ended up where she was at the bottom of the elevator shaft. Like that whole time that was Ravenbeak communicating from what I understand. Just basically guiding her through the whole thing, training her to make sure that she was worthy for his ultimate warrior.
Wasn't sure how I understood that. So yeah, okay.
And
That's
not
funny,
once
yeah,
did he
because-
say any objections, lady, or anything like that.
guess
There was
that's
no
true.
indication
Right.
that it was Adam at all.
Yeah, okay.
So
but what he basically talks about what at the end, what? How does I can't remember what he said that she closes her eyes and she realizes this is not what it seems, and she shoots a missile at the computer to blow it up, or it's actually a simulation this time, and I can't remember what he said, but basically something along the lines of like
I am your father.
something along the lines of that. But yeah, then he reveals the big Darth Vader moment where he shows that like not only did she have was it Old Beak? Is that who it was? The one who raised her, basically. Ryan will look it up. And then Metroid DNA, but when she was being taken care of and brought back, to health as a child, Ravenbeak was also put in there. So she has warrior Chozo DNA, because there's basically two breeds of Chozo.
Yeah, the Thoha and
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, basically, yeah, I'm your father, essentially, now at this point, and which was really cool. And then the whole fight was awesome. And I think I think on average it's taking maybe people around 5 to 6 tries to really get the hang of it, and understand what happens. A lot of dying. It's a long fight, but you stick it out, man. You really stick it to him, and it feels so good to stick it to him because he is.
There is a trick near the end of that fight in the third phase that I did not know you could do until like the second or third time I went through. I don't know if you know that.
Powerbomb.
Yeah, the big sun thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just fighting him around it, and I managed to pull it off. But yeah, just powerbomb the thing, and it like gives you health back and everything.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
tons of health initials. Yeah.
Man,
You could run through that whole fight once you get the patterns down and not like take any damage. It's kind of nice.
yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, once you
in
get
any of
it.
those fights to pull that kind of stuff off.
Well, the whole game did that.
Yeah.
You go into a fight and you get wrecked. And you're like, how am I going to beat this? And then you get wrecked again. But then you eventually, by the time you figure out the pattern, you're just like, okay,
Right.
I know this now. And Ravenbeak's pretty trash here. So, but just to move us along here, the big ending, when we are finishing up Ravenbeak, and you pretty much looks like you're going to die, Samus has something happen to her. Ryan, what happens to Samus to turn the tide on Ravenbeak and win this fight?
Even before she gets into this fight, you see some hints of it, where she's able
yeah.
She's able to draw energy from enemies, basically suck their life force out of them. And basically, it's essentially her Metroid DNA is waking up and starting to cause a chain reaction. It's reacting to the Machina being a natural, it was programmed like predator, to go against the Machins. Because there's a big warring tribe, Hatfields and McCoys, over here.
Right.
But one was more brains, the other was more brawn. And
that you brought that up, she had a lot of fights that we didn't talk about of Chozo warriors that were taken over by X Parasite, which that's in one of those fights. That's when she does that. I think for the first time, it was kind of satisfying. She just plants their face in the ground and absorbs it.
Yeah, it's so cool to see that. She's got this kind of Metroid siphoning ability through her hand. As she starts to awaken this, latent Metroid DNA in her. And it does cause a chain reaction at the end, and she starts to become a full-on Metroid. It's like that moment in Dragon Ball Z where everybody's calling Goku, Super Saiyan, but it doesn't actually happen until it happens. Like, the transformation happens, and you're like, this is amazing.
Exactly the same. It's a great example.
It's like, no, you thought this was my final form. No, it's not. And you get this awesome, green looking Metroid,
oh yeah,
suit,
Metroid biosuit, and she is a Metroid through and through, and it's kind of a new creature in a way.
Yeah,
that Metroid suit was one of those just really what's the word for it? Just really nerdy fan moments. I just thought was awesome. It was ridiculous, but I loved it.
Now Metroid can crawl,
Yeah,
for sure.
She was just stupidly overpowered, and it was great.
Yeah, the blast that she had at the end was just mowing down. But one thing to talk about, kind of the final boss fight, is that last little bit. I don't know if people have noticed before, but apparently X, at least this particular brand of X, was able to combine DNAs and fuse multiple creatures together. I don't know if that was a thing that was really present in Fusion. I want to say that there might have been a couple of enemies that kind of had a hybrid nature to them, but you really see that come out here. Although it was very unstable, you can see where Ravenbeak fused with basically the dead Kraid husk that became an X and became this ugly monstrosity,
Yeah.
that you had to kind of mow down. But you had all the power from Metroid. That's, all that Metroid power blasting him. There was nothing that was going to stand, and that it did for me. It came pretty close where Kraid was right up on me, with Ravenbeak. I don't even know what to call it. Raven Kraid. Anyway.
Yeah, Raven Kraid. I'm ashamed to say that I was too slow to realize what I had to do, so it did kill me one time, which is so anticlimactic.
Right.
It's the hottest point, and you're like, oh crap, and then you're dead.
Kind of takes the excitement.
Yeah, I wish I would have realized it beforehand.
I did that once on purpose just to see what would happen. But
what happened yet? Well, the game taught you how to do this, what you had to do the whole game. Mm-hmm. Every enemy robot you had to kill, you had to use the same move. It was the same beam.
Yeah.
That was cool. When you think back on it, the game was teaching you how to get ready for this final moment.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the weapon that Ravenbeak used was an Omega Cannon build. It had the same blast types as the Omega Cannon when Samus got that ability. It was just a gun that did all of that for him. He had a lot of the patterns and stuff. It's basically that same power that he was wielding. So it was kind of cool to see the final boss using that overpowered beam against you.
Right.
is a more portable version, I suppose, in that way. But it was really cool. And then you got to like superpower use it with the Metroid power against him at the end. It was really, really satisfying. Really, really cool. And the whole escape scene and everything. So we've kind of covered some of the story beats there. Not a lot story-wise happened other than that. Maybe some minor storytelling elements with things like moving around in the background, hinting at, bosses coming forward later. But not a whole lot of other storytelling elements happened other than, your big one first where you have Quiet Robe, talking to Samus, and then you have, the big X scene and then the final fight and everything. But
the final scene with Quiet Robe, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So from my understanding is, for me, it was a very poetic scene. So essentially what happens, she's a Metroid. She's, absorbing all this energy. Anything she touches pretty much with that hand is going to like siphon the ship of its energy. And so she goes to fly the ship and Nam's like, no, stop. Like she's, going to escape. And she's just going to siphon the power right out of the ship and she's not going to be able to go anywhere. And so she's kind of between a rock and a hard place, and Quiet Robe shows up behind her, and this is the X version. You can see like the hollowed out eyes and everything. Shows up behind her and sees her, and you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? There's this like ominous like creature with blanked eyes out behind her.
Freaking creepy.
And you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And there's enough sentience there. And enough memory that because the X do can keep the memories of the host, that Quiet Robe actually bowed to Samus and recognized Samus as a superior, the alpha being essentially, and it was kind of a fulfillment. Whereas it was a fight or flight reflex, or that instinct to want to fight your natural predator of the X, and also the X wanting to survive. And it's kind of a mix, but it's also versus like the whole like kind of Thoha and Quiet Robe, memories and everything helping Samus. So it's kind of like a combination where these two creatures are warring with each other. And ultimately the X decided that it was the only way it was going to escape or to survive or kind of preserve would be to give its life or to merge with Samus. Whether the X can like unmerge later or whatever, who knows? Probably not, because it's probably just assimilated, and that was enough. Yeah. It was poetic because that was also what Quiet Robe was trying to do to help Samus. Samus couldn't leave. Samus was going to die, and basically lay down their life to give Samus basically the DNA that she needed to counterbalance the Metroid and return her back to herself. Sure, if she came across another Maka and it could start the acceleration again someday. That's another story beat for another time. That'd be really cool mechanic to kind of balance between the two and maybe have both modes you could dance between and try to find ways to kind of, lessen it, that ever-growing urge to become a Metroid again. But that's just kind of something they can do with that. But I really thought it was poetic to see like both natures kind of in unison, agreeing to help Samus, because there was really no way that the X was going to survive in any way, shape, or form. And there was enough sentience that Quiet Robe was able to basically, just give her the way to escape. Now, what benefit did that have to the X ultimately? Who knows? Maybe it's just,
nothing.
It was between the hard place. Either it gets eradicated and Samus gets eradicated, or, it survives. And obviously the DNA copied over to Samus, so the X DNA, perhaps the X could live on, and it's a preservation mechanic right there, just in what, fused with her. It's hard to say how much is going to be kept there and what really did happen to her molecular makeup after that whole fusion. But it's still really, really cool. What do you guys think of that scene? Like, did it confuse you? Did you really feel that it was well done, or if it was well told, or what did you come away with that?
I thought it was confusing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it was, I didn't quite understand, like, was that him or his thoughts, or like, didn't this X just turn on the Emmys again a while ago?
Right.
So I didn't quite get that part, to be honest.
I think it could have been told better. I don't. One of those two things, but I mean, it is what it is. But
And you
outside of all that, well, I think one thing I would like to focus on just real quick. I know we're getting late. We don't want our episode to go too long, but I think the game tried to capture the hunting feeling, the dread feeling, and you got that. That was inspired by the SAX attacks in Fusion. Did this game do a good job at capturing that? Was the SAX scarier, or was the Emmy robot scarier? And did you guys have a personal little Emmy robot that you hated more than the others?
There was one that chases you through the water. I think it was right before you get the gravity suit, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, the purple one.
And that one,
I called it blue at first. Like, there was already a blue one already. I don't know. I thought it was blue, but it's purple.
that one, for whatever reason, I remember like getting sort of stuck at the same section and could not figure out the best way to like evade it.
Yeah.
And to get turned around to shoot it and all of that. So that one was a pain in the butt. And the one for the speed boots or whatever they're called.
The speed booster one.
Yeah, the yellow one.
And on the SAX, I'll say it's kind of a mix of both. Like, I think as a character, the SAX was almost scarier with its like loud footsteps. But I guess where it was a little more scripted. Well, then again, though, I will say, like, that one, you did not know where it was going to show up. You didn't know.
They did the heartbeat mechanic too, where it, they kind of gave that Game Boy Advance sound, but it was kind of like a heartbeat and like giving that tenseness feeling, which you didn't really get that. You had a panic music basically, but it didn't feel too like heartbeat like. And I think in a way, like when you walk into an Emmy zone, it has that kind of muted sound to kind of simulate that, but it didn't quite pull off the same with the horror element. I don't think. I think, but the chirps and the clicks of Emmy was pretty pretty horror like.
Yeah.
It was creepy.
Yeah.
Being able to counter them was cool. Like, I'm glad it was really hard to counter them, but I'm also glad it was
randomized.
Yeah, I'm also glad it was a possibility, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think it was randomized.
Yes.
I'm positive that
It's randomized.
I don't think so.
The way that it goes about, like the timing on when you have to hit the counter, like there's certain sequences that they'll break into.
Seemed a little bit different.
I think it's different with every Emmy, and if you're in water or if you're not in water, I think that plays into the timing. But I'm telling you, that purple one, I figured him out because I got a tempo. I got caught so many times. I'm pretty sure we all did with this one, and I got to a point where I countered him like 6 times in a row, and I was doing that tempo that I had. It was different in water, and it was different. But if you got me on land, it was different. And I did it both.
It also can depend on the angle that they catch you, quote unquote catch you, because they sometimes they can come from above and they'll like pin her down to the ground. Sometimes they'll pin her against the wall. Sometimes they do different things. So it depends on what sequence you trigger, but also there was a bit of a kind of a timing window difference too in some parts. If you did the exact same like encounter, like if you're on a flat plane and it walked right into you and you did that, it probably had the same like timing, but for the most part, like there was some variation to it, so you weren't really sure which one it was going to do. Sometimes it was quick, sometimes it was slow, and the timing was not always easy to catch. I think they did a pretty good job with the Emmys, but I don't think that it really gave that SAX vibe. And I think the one thing for me with SAX was, and it was a game mechanic improvement, whereas if you die, you can start right back outside an Emmy zone. Whereas when you actually have the big scene against SAX, when you're running from SAX, not the fight, but the actual like scary moment where she's chasing you down. The one you can't avoid, basically, after you beat Nightmare, is if you die, there isn't really a save. Like,
Oof.
There's like one down in the reactor area where the plant overgrowth is, but like you have to go through all of that again, and then try to survive, get enough life, from where you saved, and then try to go run through that escape scene again. And there isn't really a good save point around there. to make that really easy. Whereas, respawning again right outside an enemy zone, you could try it again. You could do it over and over again. It kind of took away from that horror vibe and just became more of a challenge, sometimes a bit of annoyance, frustration.
Yeah.
You had to do it over and over and over again to overcome it. But that wasn't a fault, I wouldn't say. But I think that some of that horror was lost on that.
I think for sure the Emmy robots were scary at first. But like you said, just like with any other, they became an obstacle that I slowly got to figure out, and then you eventually get to take down. Mm-hmm. Whereas the SAX was, you cannot touch this thing until you are fully powered whatsoever. So like you have to run or you're dead. I think the SAX was a lot more scary, and it's a lot more creepier with the wide eyes and the fact that it's basically mimicking you, Oh
yeah, I remember now. The fusion of X was demonstrated with SAX, if I remember right, because it took over. It was the horntoads, whatever the frogs are. That was the original form that the X was, and it went into X form and then merged with Samus. So that was a hybrid. Right. That was Samus hybrid with the toad, and you can kind of see some of that design when it transforms into the ugly X version. You could see kind of that horned like blend,
right?
With Samus, and so that's kind of like that fusion, like right there, of the different types of DNAs mixing. So that's something to keep in mind, and so like that also kind of points to, well, if she got the Thoha DNA further from Quiet Robe, perhaps more X DNA is imprinted too, and maybe some other creatures were mixed in with her. So who knows? Yeah.
I think for me personally, it was the light blue one. I think that one gave me the hardest time, just because that final room you're in, running around from it, there's like not a really good place to find a straightaway. Where that's what I always kind of looked for when like a long path, and the longest path you had was like it would crawl on the ceiling going to you. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I barely got this dude. I mean, I actually took a chance. I just fired my gun and I caught him right when he was like about to grab me, and it was cool. It was a very satisfying moment. I loved killing those things. Like, take that after everything you did. Mm-hmm.
Satisfying.
And then it was very satisfying. And the powerbomb sequence, that was nuts. I loved that part. That whole cutscene. You didn't fight it. It was just. Yeah. Well, it comes in there, right? Yeah. This is where you finally you show up and you think you're going to have another Emmy experience, and it just power bombs the room, and you're screwed. I mean, it takes you down. And then she just has her moment of, that's her realization of the Metroid. She goes all Metroid on it, right? Basically. It's like a life alert type of thing.
I'm trying to remember.
You remember what I'm talking about? It grabs her, and then instead of it killing her, she just basically goes Super Saiyan.
Is that the one? Okay. Where it actually like tries to stab her. Like it shoots out its little whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
And she grabs it.
And she grabs. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then she basically absorbs it and malfunctions it and the brain robot that's controlling it.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say. I was thinking there was like another factor there, not just the Emmy. There was something else there, present. But I don't know if it was a Chorizo or what. I don't know. That scene happened in like a blink for me. I don't know if I got distracted or what. But I remember seeing the end. I remember seeing the end and remembering that, but not really realizing what had happened in between.
I think she does it to a guard maybe as well. One of the like Chozo guard guys, whatever they're called.
Yep, she does.
So I need to go back and play that part again.
After that, she just starts doing that when you fight.
She's like, well, I guess I can do this now.
Well, other than that, unless you guys have any final thoughts, I mean, I loved the game. I think everyone should go get it for Christmas if you haven't gotten it yet. Mm-hmm. But I know we went a little bit longer than we wanted to do. You guys want to have any final thoughts outside of it and do our due diligence?
I guess I'll say, granted, I'm still somewhat coming off fresh of the hype since it just came out this year. I think it is my new favorite 2D Metroid, at least. And I hope, really, there's a continuation of this. I know this is supposed to be sort of a finale, but I feel like there's still a little more they could do after this point. A couple things unanswered. But no, I think it's an awesome game. I think it feels amazing to play. Not to keep talking too long, but in particular, I would usually never play a 2D game with the control stick, but I think it feels great with this.
That's crazy. You know, so many people complain that like you can't play 2D with a control stick,
Right?
like with the analog, and yet like this, you didn't even notice. Like you couldn't tell. Like that was awesome. Like it felt so smooth, and like this is how you do, you know, the analog stick with a 2D game like this. Like it's just so good. Like you don't even notice.
For sure.
That's a really good control design.
It just feels good to run around. But yeah, if you're into these sort of games, I definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of it, no question. There's a few things that maybe feel a little, I don't know if aged is really the word. It's not all that bad, but you know, the length isn't all that long, I guess, if you're just running through a normal run. But it's not really the nature of it. There's a little more to it than that. You kind of have to know what to expect with it. You know, it's one of those things where it expects you to do multiple runs, to go back and get the little extras and things like that, and find different ways to sequence break. So yeah, I mean, go in somewhat knowing what to expect. But yeah, I no doubt would recommend this to most people.
I don't think it really scratched the itch for me for what I love in Metroid games. Overall, I love the puzzles and the exploring, and I never really felt like I discovered a bunch of new areas like organically. I felt like I was still on kind of a rail path, and I did get to new areas, but I felt like that's where I was supposed to go. And I may have done some things out of order, but I didn't get that feeling like I was super like exploring and discovering new things and getting like really, really awesome power-ups through some puzzles and things like that. It just felt very, like not necessarily that I've done it before, but nothing really super wowed me with that part that I really get out of a Metroid game. My favorite parts are just discovering like, you know, the fact that you can do like the boost ball or like the shine spark ball that you can do in, you know, that you had never been able to do. I think it was Zero Mission that you had that ability. And then just the general Shine Spark puzzles that you had, and, you know, Metroid Fusion and some of those like wraparound areas where you could actually find secret exits and end up in other parts of the, end up in other like zones or sectors. And you had some of those elements in Super Metroid, and it didn't really feel like you had like secret passageways to other areas in Metroid Dread, and you had like the long loading scenes when you're on the trams and you know, you're teleporting and things like that. That kind of took away from that feeling of the stuff that I really enjoy for a Metroid game. But I think like it really captured the spirit of Metroid. It felt really, really good, and the story was amazing, and they hit so many high notes. Even though it didn't quite meet up with my what I really get from Metroid games most. It hit on everything else, and I without a doubt, this is a great Metroid game, like just through and through. It's great, and I need to go through and play it a few more times till I get familiar with it. But I didn't really get that desire to just want to jump back in afterwards, like I did Fusion, or I wanted to play it over again and experience it and catch little things and find more secrets. And one another part of that is like in previous Metroid games, you could go in and you beat the game, but you couldn't unlock everything until you went back and played again. And this one you could get 100% before you even fought the final boss the first time. And I don't think I liked that too much because it didn't really unlock a lot of stuff at the end or like give you more to do after story. And so I'm hoping that they do some kind of DLC, maybe explain a little bit more of the story, open up some new story beads, like, you know, just do something with that. I would like to see some expansion to this game in some form. Just to kind of scratch that itch and feel a little bit more complete for the stuff that they didn't really touch on that I really enjoyed. I just wanted to see a little bit more, but I think overall it was pretty good. Like I think it would be a great game if they added just a little bit, you know, a little bit more with clarity on story and some explanation and maybe some secret areas and hidden areas, maybe ways to get to other areas that didn't involve super long cutscenes and loading times and things like that. And I was running on the OLED, so... but yeah, that was just kind of my thoughts on that.
Cool. Well, Want to do our due diligence.
Sure thing, man. I totally have this down. So you can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Pandora Podcasts. You can also see us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook at Nintendo NOS, on our Twitter at Nintendo_NOS, on our Instagram at Nintendo NOSIN. You can find us. You can shoot us an email at nintendonostalgiain@gmail.com. You can call into our nostalgia hotline, share your memories, and show us some love at 317-969-5690. Guys, that brings us to the end of our episode. We hope you enjoyed this awesome spoiler cast, and we will catch you next time. Later, Preston.
Bye-bye.
The